Welcome to White Slash. I'm glad to have you on my channel. Let's jump into today's story. I met my late husband in high school. We started out as friends before becoming girlfriend and boyfriend. We started dating in junior year, and by the end of my senior year, I was pregnant with his child. We got married after the birth of our child, and we made it work. It was hard, but it was worth it. We loved each other very much. He was my soulmate. Years later, I would lose him to a car accident. The doctors said that they did everything that they could, but his injuries were just too grave. I felt like my entire life was falling apart. I had lost the one that I loved so dearly, and our daughter suffered just as greatly. She loved her dad very much. He was her hero. I never thought I could recover. Years after his death, I met a guy at work. It was the first time I had started dating since the passing of my first husband. He was very charming and understanding of the situation. Somehow, I fell in love again. In the beginning, I felt like I was betraying my first love, but I realized that he probably would want me to be happy, so I started going out with this man. It was good. It had been so long since I could be intimate with someone again, to tell them about everything. And he was everything you could want in a man: handsome, patient, financially stable, responsible, etc. The only problem was my daughter. She strongly felt like I was betraying her dad, and she was very angry. She refused to meet him, talk to him, or try to get to know him. Bless his heart, he tried his best to reach out to her. He would bring over presents for her on special holidays, and eventually she did warm up to him. She confessed to me that she was very scared to get attached to him after the death of her dad, and that she was afraid to lose another father figure in her life. She had been traumatized from losing her dad. I comforted her, telling her there was no rush and no one is going to leave her. After that conversation, she was more at ease with him. He continued to be very nice and patient, and their relationship did improve. Eventually, after some time, he asked me to marry him. I asked him for some time to think about it so I could ask my daughter if she would be okay with that. And she told me that she wants me to be happy and to say yes, so I did. Admittedly, I was very nervous to be married again. It was a very emotional experience. But I could almost feel my late husband smiling down on me from above. The wedding was amazing and I had a wonderful time, as did everyone. Even my daughter seemed happy. I had found a man I could love after losing my first husband, a man who cared about my daughter and me. After the wedding, we went on a brief honeymoon and then came back. That's when things started to change, and not for the better. My daughter tried to spend time with him, but he got very distant from her. He stayed the same with me, but with her, it was as if a switch had gone off. My daughter would tell me that he would look at her with such disdain in his eyes, that he would ignore her and act as if she was insignificant. I tried to talk to him about it, but he denied it, saying that he was being normal and that she was blowing things out of proportion. My daughter would keep insisting that he was acting very differently. I kept trying to talk to him, but he kept telling me that I'm letting her manipulate me because she was still upset over her dad. He brought up the fact that he has always been very kind towards her, and that she's probably just going through a phase. I asked my daughter if maybe this was the case, and she became very upset with me. She didn't talk to me for a few days, and after that, never spoke a word about my husband again, so I figured all was well. I did start to notice it though after we had a kid of our own. My husband would be very loving towards our son, while with her, not so much. It was almost like he didn't want any. It was almost like he didn't want to consider my daughter as part of the family, that she was just a reminder of what we had lost. My daughter became quieter as the years went by. I didn't hear her joke or laugh as much as she used to, if at all. She lost weight and seemed sad all the time. I tried asking her what was wrong or what I could do to help, but she always refused to talk to me about it. I had several arguments with my husband about the way I noticed he was treating her, and he said that he would loosen up. And from what I saw, he did improve. He started to treat her better. But my daughter only got more and more depressed, and I didn't understand why. As soon as she turned 18, she moved out. It broke my heart, but I couldn't stop her. I just wanted her to be okay. Years later, I found out that she was getting married. This was a very big surprise. I was very happy for her, and she wanted me to help with the wedding planning along with her future mother in law. I was beyond excited and I agreed. A few months into planning, she asked me in private if my husband could walk her down the aisle. She explained that even though they had a rocky relationship, he was the closest thing she had to a dad and would appreciate it. I said, of course, that he would be honored to do that, and I arranged for all three of us to get together so she could ask him herself. So we do that, and she very nervously asks if we could walk her down the aisle. She explains what she told me, saying that he's the closest thing to a dad and that she would feel grateful if he could do that for her. She goes on to say very tearfully that she always imagined her late father would give her away, so him doing this would bring her some sense of closure. He stays silent for a few minutes before he calmly says, "You're not my daughter, so why would I give you away? That'd be inappropriate." As soon as he said that, she burst into tears and hurried out of the room. I got very angry and asked him why the heck he would say that to her without an ounce of compassion. He got just as angry, telling me that it would be inappropriate for him to do that when she's not his real child, that he doesn't want to walk my first husband's child down the aisle. I got furious with him and I left and went after my daughter. She was sobbing, and when I tried to apologize, she started yelling at me. She screamed that he had always been awful to her and I didn't listen, that he would act decently in front of me, but behind my back, he would say awful things and make her feel like she was a burden. He would treat her differently than her sibling, and I never did anything to stop this. That I betrayed her dad by staying with a man like him. I stared in shock as she screamed all of this at me before hugging her and holding her for a while. I apologized profusely while crying. On the day of the wedding, I was the one who walked my daughter down the aisle. It was a gorgeous wedding, and her husband is a good man. She was very happy, and I made sure that my husband didn't attend. I didn't want him anywhere near her, and after that day, I refused to talk to him. The day after the wedding, I received a letter. It was meant to be for my husband, but I read it and it informed me that my daughter had been successfully removed from our will. He had removed her from the will without telling me. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. He had hurt my daughter in profound ways, and I had let him, but no more. I filed for divorce and left the house. I left a long letter for my husband to find, telling him that I was going to divorce him because I didn't approve of how he was treating my daughter. I had let my daughter down for years, but I wouldn't anymore. I told him nothing was going to change my mind, and him writing her out of the will was the last straw. I stayed at a hotel before my daughter insisted that I go stay with her and her husband for at least a little bit. I declined at first, but she insisted since she was worried for me, so I obliged. Since that day, I have received so many messages from him and his relatives telling me that I'm being too dramatic. My husband insists that I'm doing this for no good reason and I'm letting my daughter dictate my life. Am I the AH for deciding to divorce him out of the blue? It's been a couple of months since I last wrote, and I'm officially divorced now. I couldn't live the rest of my life with the man who had treated my daughter so horrendously. The house was in my name, so I gotta keep it, but I allowed my husband and our son to stay until he had a place to live. Our son had been very distraught due to the situation, but I explained to him that this was not his fault in the slightest. My husband and I have agreed on joint custody over our son, so I reassured him that we would still spend time together and that I wasn't going to abandon him. He's taking the situation very hard, which is to be expected, but he tells me that he doesn't hold a grudge, which is beyond relieving. My daughter and I have started to mend our relationship little by little. There's a lot to heal from. I feel so much guilt about what I put her through unintentionally, and I feel so broken at the same time. I thought I had found true love after my first husband passed, but I was wrong. I was very wrong. Update 2. It's been a year or so, I think. I've lost track of time. My daughter is pregnant with their first child, and I am beyond excited to be a grandma. Our relationship has improved very much, and she's even started spending time with her sibling now. He tells me that his dad constantly badmouths me and my daughter, which is stressful for him. He's asked if he could live with me full time once he turned 18, to which I said, of course. I haven't tried dating again, and I don't think I will. That chapter of my life has ended for good. It might be for the better, though. I can focus all my energy on being a better mom and a good grandma. You knew your wacky husband was being an AH to your daughter. Why didn't you divorce him sooner? The only victim here is your poor kid. I mean, better late than never, I guess. Good on you for divorcing that AH, though you should have done it much sooner. I, 49 female, have one son, 26 male, and one chosen daughter, 25 female. When I was younger, I had a best friend. I call her E. E was a fun but very unreliable person. We had always spoken about having children at the same time. So when I got pregnant, so did she. The first 5 years went great. We were still incredibly close as you can be as new parents. But when her boyfriend died, her life and mental health got wrecked. E's family isn't in her life, so when E found a new life meaning every month or so, she often left her daughter G with me. At first, it was just weeks at a time, but as G became a teenager, it became permanent. I always loved G. I'd always wanted a daughter. I eventually cut off E. I just couldn't have someone who treats a child the way she did in my life anymore. But G has always been family, and I've always told her that I see her as much as my child as my son. In the past 2 years, E has gotten her crap together and has reached out to G to reconnect. G is ecstatic about it and wants to invite her to every family event we host. I told her no, that E was not welcome at any event that I was hosting or attending, that I was happy they were reconnecting, but under no circumstances did I want to have contact with her. G has resented me for this, and we fight more than we ever have. Our latest fight became very heated, and after both said some regrettable things, G told me she never saw me as a mother, and me trying to keep E out of her life wasn't going to change that. I know I'm not her mom, but it really stung to hear that. I told her I would not be treated like this, and she was not welcome in my home or life while acting like this. She started crying and stormed out. Later, she texted me a bunch of more hurtful things and pointed out I would never kick my son out no matter what fight we'd had. And so much for loving me like him. I feel really bad now. My son is very close with G, so he wants us to make up. But I feel like kicking her out was still the right choice. So, AITA? Edit. Thank you for all the responses. Just to clarify info that is being asked, 1. The hurtful things I said leading up to me talking badly about her mother and bringing up past mistakes, it was not okay and something I do regret. 2. I don't know if I would kick out my son. I don't think I would because he could never tell me I wasn't his mom, but you are all right. It's still not okay. 3. When I wrote events I was hosting and attending, I meant holidays. Christmas, my son's wedding, Thanksgiving, etc., or things my family, parents, siblings, nieces, etc. hosted. If G were to host an event, I wouldn't make her choose between who to invite, but I would probably avoid E as much as she would avoid me. Edit 2. Probably my last edit for a while. I appreciate all the responses, even the harsh ones. I will reach out to her and try to resolve this. One last info update. G does not live with me, but she lives close and we are a tight-knit family, so we all eat dinner together several times a week. I did not kick her out of her home, but I did kick her out of coming back to her childhood home. Probably gonna get downvoted, but NTA. And honestly, I don't understand all the people saying YTA. It's not like you're preventing G from rekindling her relationship with E. It's in your right to not want E in your life, therefore, not having her at family events. G is 25, an adult now, and it's time to learn about the consequences of her actions. She tells you she never saw you as her mother? Well, then, out of the house. She can either go stay with who she considers her mother or get a job and be independent. NTA. She can't have her cake and eat it too. You are not trying to keep E out of G's life. You are simply trying to keep E out of your life. You are not obligated to let E attend events that you host. As far as events you are attending, that will be up to the host. My son is graduating in a few weeks. His mom, my ex, was supposed to fly in to be there at the ceremony. He hardly gets to see her since she moved across the state with her partner. So he was looking forward to her being there. I'm very proud of him and know how much of a big deal this is. Due to his learning disability, he struggled a lot in school, so for him to be graduating with all A's is a huge thing for him, so of course he'd like her to be there. My ex informed me that she won't make it. When I asked her why, she said because her partner is graduating from college with her BA that she went back to school for. They're just a day apart from each other, so she wouldn't be able to fly here and be present, then go back home in time. I cannot express how much this angered me. We had a full on fight about it because I asked her why she cares more about her partner's graduation than being present at our son's when she knows how much he wants her there. We talked again once things cooled down, but nothing has changed. My son is still upset about it after their talk. His grandparents want to throw him a graduation party, which my ex said she will attend, but he told everyone he doesn't want her there. My ex in laws were calling me demanding to know why my son doesn't want his mom there. They were mad, acting like it was something I did or maybe said something bad about his mom in front of him. After telling them the real reason, they directed their anger at her for deciding to skip out on it. She's been coming at me for being spiteful, telling them something that wasn't their business to know about. I could have only said there were personal reasons that they don't need to know about and left it at that. She's calling me an a-hole for making her family turn on her when she only wanted to support her partner overcoming something huge as well, and she would have been there at my son's graduation party that following weekend. And yes, she's right. I could have not said anything at all, but I didn't like them acting as if it were my fault and not their daughter's that my son no longer wanted her to come. AITA? NTA. When people lie and you tell the truth, you're not an AH. You're telling the truth and not covering for them. It's not your job to know what lies she's told and cover for her.